Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to this Slippery Slope. So I'm just going to go through this article quickly, and the reason why I want to talk about it, it's policing, but it's also talking about policing in Indigenous communities, and they've had a bit of an issue up there. And I wanted to talk about it because I do have a bit of experience, just to touch up policing in these kind of areas, and I think it's easy to sit back and judge some of the things that go on, judge some of the issues, and when you're looking from afar and you're looking at things and you're comparing it, policing, living in a community area, and you're comparing it to how things go when you're down living in the southeast corner of Queensland. So people like to ask questions and like to, cast aspersions, make judgments, but it's very different when you're on the ground, when you're up there working. So let's just have a look at this anyway. So the headline: Queensland Police watch on as Indigenous communities brawl. Footage has emerged of police watching on as fights erupt in Indigenous communities, as QPS saying they're trying to restore calm after tensions between local families in Far North Queensland. It's funny. I'm fairly certain these kinds of this footage, these kinds of videos come out every second year, and there's always some kind of similar story about it. Anyway, so footage has emerged of police officers watching on as people fight in these Indigenous communities in Queensland. The videos, sometimes with dozens of onlookers, comes amid the QPS saying they are trying to restore calm after tensions between local families in Far North Queensland. The videos show officers at times put their arms out to stop others getting involved in the fights, but does not show them intervening. I'll quickly say that's not a bad thing. Just because they're not intervening doesn't mean they're not doing their job. It doesn't. Okay. There's a few things you've got to take into consideration when you're in these areas. I'll get into that after. It's understood a number of the videos are in the community of Arakun. In some videos, women are fighting. Police who spoke to the Courier Mail said policing in the communities was sensitive and that different thresholds need to be applied when intervening. The approach taken by officers was how they need to police the issue and was correct by protocol, according to multiple people. QPS was asked about the videos and why officers were not seen to intervene in the footage. In a statement, the service said police, elders, and Arakan community were continuing to work closely to closely. Yeah, they've repeated it. Anyway, they've continued to work closely to restore calm amid recent increased tension between local families. QPS is committed to providing, they give their teeth, I love it. We're committed to doing this, whatever. Culturally sensitive and appropriate. Police are mediating between families and assisting the community to work towards de escalating tensions, which is good. I think a lot of police they haven't really understood this skill, this art of de-escalating. Disputes in recent weeks include the ad hoc incidents of fights in between involving two or three participants with bystanders watching. QPS has systems in place to monitor use of force options employed by police in responding to incidents. The training curriculum for use of force by QPS officers is constantly being reviewed and adopted for any identified emerging trends. Statement said police in the community respect the delicate balance between cultural practices and ensuring public safety. For Queensland Police, there is no mandated use of force response for a particular threat presented, the statement said. That's interesting because experience would say that that's not exactly true, but that's probably a different story. Anyway, while the QPS priority is public safety in cases where intervention is necessary, you got to remember it's got to be necessary. It's got to be, someone's life is in danger, and hopefully you're not going to put your own life in danger, not too much anyway. It's always going to be a bit of danger, but it's always difficult when you're surrounded maybe by 100 people. Anyway, police take action to diffuse tensions rather than escalate the situation. This is an art. Like I said, a lot of police down in the southeast corner and living in, urban and environments need to learn this art to diffuse tensions and stop escalating, which is why I think we've had so many shootings involving police involving and the public, because people either haven't learnt it, they've either forgotten or just haven't learnt it in the first place. They don't have the skills to de-escalate. Anyway, so police are taught to conduct a continual threat assessment and to reassess use of force options as the threat levels rise and fall during the incident. Police use tactical communication to attempt to de-escalate any use of force situations. Anyway, so really, look, why I want to talk about this quickly. It's different when you're in a community environment in these areas and you're policing. You're majority of the time, the areas where I worked at different times, you haven't got all the backup like you do in the southeast corner, like you might have in, Mackay or Townsville or something like this, where, you've got just a plethora of resources coming to your aid if you need it. Quite often, you can be in a situation where let's just go for round figures. You're working in a community where you've got 2,000 people. Just go for that number, 2,000 people. And during the day, you might only have two police officers on duty doing a rotation. And maybe the whole station has only got a handful of officers at it anyway. I'm talking like maybe under 10 people. I worked at a station where there was only two of us, and there was probably under 1,000 people, I think, in the community. Worked there for a little while. So, you got two people, two officers, and the nearest backup is, what was it? Cookdown, I think. Or maybe another one. Anyway, at least an hour, 2 hours away. So, you've got to tread reasonably lightly. You cannot just go in there heavy handed. This is the benefit, I think, of working in these these community areas, is that you learn the art, you learn the skill to continually threat assess, assess the threats. The only acronym that I took away from policing, in when it came to GDs anyway, and I was WIN. They use this. The police, they like to come up with acronyms every year. They'll come up some officer will come up with some. Oh, let's use this now. Anyway, I liked the WIN acronym. I thought it was the only worthwhile acronym that I learnt while I was there, and it stood for what's important now. You can be standing there, and there will be fights breaking out, and in a community, people tempers flare. There'll be a lot of tensions between family groups, and you look at it and think, what's important now? Well, what's important now is there's only two officers on the ground. I'm just going for a what if possible scenario. There's only two officers on the ground. In the whole area, there may be only 10 in the whole area. Maybe it's going to take time to get people out. Even if there's 10, even if you get all 10 officers out, you've got a community where there might be 1,000 people. The last thing you want is for 1,000 people to be brawling. The last thing you want is for the 1,000 people to say, well, you're not doing this right, and the 1,000 people turn on 10 police officers, 10 officers at the most. So you're out there, you've got just you and your partner, two of yous doing general duties work. You need to be able to continually assess the threat. Remember what's important now. You've got to make sure you and your partner are safe. People might be brawling. People might start going off on the street. Are other people's lives actually going to be in danger? Can we just talk about this? Is it really such a bad thing if people are fighting, if a group is fighting and there's only two of you, and you cannot reasonably be expected to get in the middle and arrest everyone? For one, there's not enough people you haven't got enough resources to arrest everyone. You can't take everyone back to your little watch house. You can't put everyone in the back of your little van because they're all fighting. There's only one police car. Even if you get others in, you've still only got two police vehicles in the whole area. How are you going to pull in everyone there? Sometimes it's better to try and monitor the fighting, make sure no one's being, just ganged up on. It's better for monitor the fighting, make sure there's people fighting if it's an even contest. It doesn't sound, I know it doesn't sound the best, but to keep everyone's life out of danger, it's better to assess the situation, monitor the situation. I was in situations, I remember I worked up in one area, and one of the first things my OIC had said, hey, look, we had this big brawl. This had happened just a few weeks ago. There was way too many people fighting. We had all hands on deck, but we had to stand there and watch and make sure that things weren't getting out of hand, that people weren't ganging up on one person. But we kept a note, we kept a check of what was going on. We filmed what we could, we made sure we documented what we could, and then we came back when everything had finally started to slow down, simmer down, tension started to calm. Then we came back and we made arrests. We talked to people, we interviewed, we gathered more evidence, and we issued NTAs, notice to appear, and got everyone before court. Everything had calmed down. People knew what they'd done wrong. But at that time, they looked at what was important now. What was important now was the safety of the officers, the safety of individuals in the community who couldn't protect themselves, who wanted to be kept out of it. We made sure those things were happening, and that the people who were involved, that they weren't getting ganged up on, and that no one was going to get, as best as we can control it, people weren't going to get killed, things weren't going to escalate too much, weapons weren't getting used. A lot of the times in these areas, if people think, well, if they can just have a punch on, and then if someone loses, they lose. And then things just, people can just, okay, I lost the fight, I can walk away. Unlike some areas where you're down in the cities and people come up and just, they don't learn to lose, they learn to start punching people when they're not looking in the back of the head. They'll want to get a knife, they'll want to get other weapons, they fight to kill. A lot of the times when you're in these things, people aren't fighting to kill, they're fighting because they're angry, and you're just helping to de-escalate. And they also get in, they talk to the elders, they talk to the community, and try and work out what's best for everyone as a whole. I think the things that you learn when you're working up in these areas, you learn to assess the threats properly, and you learn to de-escalate. And in my opinion, a lot of police would benefit if they went and worked in these areas and learnt these skill sets, because I think that's why we've had so many issues with police shootings over the last couple of years. For one, QPS has gone down this road of recruiting people who shouldn't be on the job, who cannot handle the stresses of policing. They cannot they don't understand threat assessment and continual threat assessment. They don't understand de-escalation. They seem to think that they have to just run in and just immediately stop things from happening, and then they get themselves into a bind and realize the only way out is to pull their gun. And I think this to me is QPS's fault, because they've recruited people who aren't really suited for the role. You have to be able to handle stress, extreme stress, in really short bursts sometimes. And if you can't handle extreme stress, you probably shouldn't be in the job. I'm sorry. But I think comes back to QPS and what they've done, because they've insisted on DEI and a 50-50 margins within their ranks, and which is just unrealistic. But anyway, getting back to the story, okay, this has happened in apparently up in Arakoon. A lot of these videos have come from. Don't judge police too harshly up there. It's a difficult environment. These police are looking at it going, what's important now? They've got to protect themselves. They've got to protect the fellow officers. They're protecting the community, but they have to, allow the steam, allow the pressure to be let loose sometimes, so they can just de-escalate things and take the pressure down. They have to remember what's important now. It's easy for everyone to sit back and judge it and say, well, why aren't they jumping in the middle? Not everyone wants to jump in and get their face punched. That's just the way it is, and you shouldn't have to. But I think they're doing a good job, and I think a lot of police would be better off if they went up to these areas and worked, and if they went up and started to really understand this continual threat assessment skill, and to be able to get back to some of the basics and remembering what is important now. It's not always just, see a knife, pull a gun, and shoot. You've got to be able to assess a person quickly and properly and thoroughly. Anyway, this is all just my opinion. I just didn't want people. I don't like these stories when they come out. I'm all for looking at QPS and what they're doing wrong, but the men and women on the ground up in these areas, they're doing the best and they're in hard situations. So I think they really need our support. And these are tough situations that they're put in. Anyway, this is all just my opinion. Judge as you will. My name is Jay Fallon. Check out my music if you can. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm